From the natural beauty of beaches, waterfalls, and national parks to museums and attractions, there are numerous reasons to visit Ghana. But there are some things tourists need to know before visiting, from how to take photographs to how to use a taxi. Here are a few tips to consider when visiting Ghana. Tip number 1. Follow all instructions from your guide. This is for your own safety. So you never want to venture off and do your own thing as if you have the knowledge of what's happening in Ghana because you know, it's a land that you have not been to. And so for your own safety, you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to your tour guide and following his instructions to not only prevent you from danger, but also to protect yourself. Tip number 2, treat your guide as a fellow human being with respect and dignity. So you never want to think just because you're coming from another culture or another part of the country that you are, authoritative over your guide or that you have more knowledge than he has. You always want to respect your tour guide, and that just goes for anyone. You just always want to be respectful. Tip number 3, respect local customs and traditions. Realize that you're in a very different environment than Europe or America. It's also helpful to read some basic cultural etiquette to help you interact with the Ghanaians more easily because it's a culture shock. You're coming from a whole different part of the world. So you may not understand certain things or even interact, and the language is different. You might not have the understanding of language here in Ghana. So you want to be aware of the different type of things that happen in Ghanaian culture. It may not be the same as what you're used to in America. So that is for sure something that you want to consider. Tip number 4, inform your guide of any problems or desires. Be specific, but not rude. The more specific you are in your request, the better your guide will be at to give you the correct outcome. So you want to make your issue, if you have one, make it very clear, make it very known, speak in a low tone, don't raise your voice, don't get disrespectful and irate, but just take your time. Express yourself to the best of your ability, being respectful while doing so. Tip number 5. Be patient. Be flexible. Ghana is a developing country, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't realize when they visit Ghana. They just maybe have this perception that every part of Ghana is going to be this just mass development happening and that everything is going to be tip-top shape. And I think that they also, expect a lot of things in America to be the same here in Ghana, and that is not so. Like, there's going to be situations where there might not be available toilet. It may not be AC in a lot of parts of Ghana, and it's very hot. So that's something that you want to prepare yourself for. Maybe you want to get a little small electric fan that you can, take along. Maybe you want to get a manual fan, a little small one that you can use if you know that you can't tolerate extreme heat. Everywhere you go is not going to be air conditioned. Power outages is another big thing. 9 times out of 10, if you're visiting, you're going to be staying in a hotel, and you're going to be staying in a rather nice hotel. So really, issues of power outages, you won't be affected by it, even if it does happen, because they have backup generators. So this isn't a major one, but it is something to consider if you're maybe thinking about staying at an Airbnb. The Airbnb that you select may not necessarily have a backup generator. So you have to be mindful that if the power goes out, that you might be in the dark, and it doesn't always stay out too long. It depends. It can be anywhere from a couple of minutes to a few hours before the power might come back on. So that's also another thing to consider when visiting Ghana. Me personally, I stayed in an Airbnb my second trip to Ghana. And I will say that I didn't have the experience of power outage while I stayed. That wasn't something that I experienced, but it is a huge possibility and huge probability that you might have a power outage. So consider that if you're considering staying at an Airbnb. Tip number 6, speak more slowly, not more strongly. When there is a communication misunderstanding with any person. So you don't want to, because like I said, it's a language barrier. And so when you have this language barrier and you're trying to explain something to someone, they may not understand what it is that you're saying. It's not that they're being disrespectful or they're not trying to accommodate you or they're not trying to hear you. It just simply can be that they just don't understand what you're saying. And a lot of times, Ghanaians will shake their head and smile, and you may think that they understand everything that you just said when in all actuality, they understood nothing. Okay, so just, be sure to have patience. I just want to put that out there. Make sure that you're having patience, because patience is the key when you are visiting Ghana for sure. You will see men holding hands in public because they are good friends. Do not react oddly when a Ghanaian man takes you by the hand. However, homosexuality is illegal in Ghana. You will never see men or women of any orientation kissing because public displays of affection are never acceptable. It's not what they do in this culture. Not to say that same sexes don't, indulge. But it's not publicized the way that it is in the States. So you'll never openly see that here in Ghana. So if you are, if your sexual preference and orientation is of the same sex as you just want to make sure that you're not displaying that in public, because you will go to Ghanaian jail. And nobody want to do that. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is a different culture. There's things that's not acceptable here that may be acceptable in the States. And that's one thing to consider when visiting Ghana. So if you feel like you don't want to be doing all of that, then maybe you want to rethink coming to Ghana if same sex is your preference. And last but not least, tip number 7. Feel free to leave a tip or gift with your guide or family at the end of their service. So you just want to be appreciative of the time that they've spent to give you a tour, and you want to make sure that you're tipping well when you're going out and you're going to these different restaurants, or if you're, getting a pedicure, manicure, or something of that nature. Just make sure that you're tipping. That's something that is not practiced here in Ghana. It's sad, but Ghanaians don't tip. Like, that's just not their thing to do. But coming from America, it's something that we do. So you just want to make sure that you're just, appreciative, and that you express that by tipping. And you don't got to give you ain't got to go broke tipping, but just be appreciative of your guide and the time that they took to give you the tour. And, they do amazing jobs with these tours. And, there's time spent away from their families just to be there to make sure that you're comfortable and you're having a good experience in Ghana. So the best thing to do is to reciprocate that with a nice tip. So that completes today's video. I hope that you enjoyed these tips, and drop a comment if you really enjoyed this and it was helpful. Let me know. So drop a comment. If you can benefit from more of these videos, drop a comment and let me know. Yes, Melody, you're onto something here, so that we can continue to create videos just like this. Until next video, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe.